Today we've got a freak up story about someone that accidentally answered an emergency call. We'll get into that one later, but first. Today I freaked up by accidentally becoming the other woman in a Greek island soap opera. So I arrive in a small city, this tiny beach town on a Greek island, after an 18-hour ferry where I basically marinated in Greek sweat. I'm outside my Airbnb, smelly, excited, just dreaming of hitting that Instagram-worthy beach. Cue shirtless man on a scooter, small helmet, Ray-Bans, big beer belly that definitely testified to a life of beer. He slows down, says hello in Greek, and looks back at me like we're in a music video. I laugh, wave, whatever. The town is so small that I see him again, and on day 3, he stops and offers me a ride. I've been kinda lonely, so I think, sure, why not? It's just a lift. Famous last words. Instead of dropping me at the beach, he insists on a beer, and suddenly we're on a date, except he speaks almost no English, I speak no Greek, Google Translate is working overtime and failing. Through the chaos, I learn he has a girlfriend. She is married. His ex-wife works at the town's only bakery with his daughter. He's clearly already a few beers in. At this point, I'm just sitting there wondering how I went from smelly fairy zombie to lead character in Samos, the telenovela. I make an excuse, leave, and think it's done. Until he messages me later. He wants to bring beers to my Airbnb, but we'd have to keep it quiet because his girlfriend was crying because she knew we had a date and she knew who I was. Y'all, I just wanted a beach day. Instead, I apparently dismantled the fragile ecosystem of an entire Greek village. The next morning, I took the ferry to another island before they could officially cast me as the town witch. Honestly, why couldn't I just have dealt with some drunk Ryan from the US snoring in my dorm and trying to flirt with the Canadian backpacker? At least that drama comes with earplugs. Yeah, you can't make stuff like this up. Definitely the plot of a crappy telenovela, but apparently this really happened, so thank you for sharing. Intend your puns replied, it's interesting how the Mediterranean culture seems to have an acceptance of extramarital lovers. Obviously a generalization, but the kernel of truth the stereotype or image comes from is interesting. I feel like this safely applies to Spanish, French, and Italian cultures. Also, hey everybody, my name is Brendan, and if you guys enjoy these Today I Freaked Up videos, it would be amazing if you liked the video or commented down below if you're listening to our podcast. Now then, our next story is, Today I Freaked Up. I'm pretty sure a coworker thinks I eat cat food. I work at a factory. This week, I've been working a different shift than normal. Most of my team is in training, so I've been covering third shift for the week to fill the gap. Normally, I work second shift, and because of my role, I spend most of my time away from my desk dealing with active issues. So normally, I spend my break time eating at my desk so I can catch up on paperwork while I eat. Third shift is slower. There aren't as many situations that need my intervention. As such, I got ahead on my paperwork. I also wanted to socialize some, so I decided to take my lunch in the break room with the rest of the staff. For lunch today, I made a tuna sandwich with sriracha sauce. I didn't want the bread to get soggy, so I mixed the tuna and the sauce, put them back in the can, then used a can lid to seal the can. At lunch, I sat with some people I had chatted with and assembled my sandwich. One of the people looked at the can and asked, "Is that cat food?" I was very confused and said, "It's just tuna," and I went back to eating and talking. Though I noticed some of the other people were giving me glances. After I packed up, I realized just tuna isn't red/orange, so obviously it was mixed with something. The can lid was branded with the local pet food store logo. The coworker asked if I was eating cat food, and I didn't deny it because I was so confused. Yeah, this is an honest mix-up, but I think a pretty easy way to explain it. If people are really judging you and this is bothering you, you can explain it just like you explained to Reddit. Ferio Day commented, LMAO, this is hilarious actually. It's just tuna, not the slightest denying it's cat food. And Opie replied to this, it was such a bizarre accusation, I had no idea where it was coming from. Normal human people eat tuna. Tuna sandwich is very tasty and healthy. Her tone of disgust is what really threw me off. I forgot the lid. Our next story is, Today I freaked up by trusting popcorn more than my dentist. So, about 2 weeks ago, I was living my best life with a bowl of popcorn when, crunch. Naturally, I thought it was just an unpopped kernel. Nope. It was half my tooth. I panicked, called the dentist, and here's the real freak up. My insurance doesn't cover it. Apparently, fixing a broken tooth in your actual mouth is considered cosmetic. Unless I let it rot into a full infection, then it magically becomes urgent care. So now I'm chewing like a pirate on one side of my mouth, rocking a DIY smile, while my insurance company basically tells me, teeth are optional. Good luck, champion. Like, imagine breaking your arm and being told, sorry, arms are cosmetic. Yeah, as someone who has 2 crown teeth myself from breaking them, doing something stupid when I was younger, I totally empathize with this. Oral surgery is not the move. KB112 replied, most dental plans suck at what they actually cover. There are cheaper options if you want to give it a go. There are dental programs at colleges that often do things at a steep discount, or free, depending on the service. You're basically a guinea pig for a dentist in training, but just an option to consider. Our next story is, today I freaked up less than a week-old iPhone 16 Pro Max eaten by Eco ATM. So I thought I'd be funny and see what my brand new iPhone 16 Pro Max, not even a week old, was worth at my Walmart Eco ATM, just for kicks, right? I follow the steps, put my phone in, machine goes unable to read. So I hit cancel, like, cool, give me my phone back. 5 minutes later, door's still locked. Then I hear a thud. Door opens and my phone is gone. Cue panic mode. I'm running around Walmart like, hey, my robot ate my $1,200 phone. Managers basically shrugged and said, yeah, we can't open that. Super helpful. I call Eco ATM customer service, and they're like, sorry, nothing we can do. Meanwhile, I'm Googling horror stories of people's phones getting eaten by these things. At this point, I'm ready to crawl in the machine like Charlie in the Chocolate Factory. Fast forward, police get involved, and here's the wild part. These machines are basically Fort Knox with iPads inside. Customer service won't touch it for randoms because apparently each machine is holding thousands in iPhones. But with police present, different story. Pro tip, if this ever happens to you, call Eco ATM, hit the menu option for authorities calling. They'll verify the cop's info and boom, they can remotely crack open the safe inside the safe. I proved which phone was mine by using my MacBook, and after hours of stress, I finally got it back. I've said it before, I'll say it again, when you play stupid games, you earn stupid prizes. I get it, you were just trying to have fun, but something like this was bound to happen, unfortunately. The legendary D replied, the machine I used at Walmart gave me pricing without even putting the phone in the console. I was able to inquire freely. You had to have gone through the whole process and inserted the phone. NOP replied to this, yes, I believe that was before thieves were stealing phones and selling them at Eco ATMs only. After it became a big problem, then you had to put your phone inside the machine. Our next story is, today I freaked out by giving my vegan friend a gift basket with leather gloves. My friend Sarah has been a dedicated vegan for years, and I truly admire her commitment. Her birthday was coming up, and I wanted to get her something special that aligned with her values. I spent a solid hour browsing online and found what I thought was the perfect eco-conscious gift basket from a supposedly ethical brand. The basket was filled with organic soy candles, cruelty-free almond lotion, and a bunch of other natural products. It even had this beautiful, rustic description about sustainability and respect for the earth. I was so proud of myself for finding something that I thought was thoughtful and perfectly her. The big day comes, and we're at her birthday dinner with a few close friends. She starts opening gifts and she gets to mine. She's oohing and awing over the lotions, holding up the candles, and then she pulls out these gorgeous, stylish gloves. They were a rich, earthy brown color and looked incredibly soft. For a split second, she looked delighted. Then her face just fell. She turned the tag over, and her expression went from confused to hurt. She went completely silent. These are real leather, she said, her voice quiet but firm. The whole table went awkwardly silent. I felt my stomach drop straight to the floor. I completely missed it. In my focus on the natural and recycled marketing, I didn't even think to check the material of the gloves. I started stammering an apology, trying to explain that it was a total accident, that I would never knowingly give her an animal product. She handed the gloves back to me and said, very politely, I appreciate the thought, but I can't accept these. The rest of the dinner was incredibly strained, and I could tell I had really upset her. The worst part is, I know it's not just about the gloves. It's that I, her friend, who should know better, made her feel like her deeply held beliefs were an afterthought. I feel like an absolute jerk. I immediately went home and wrote a long, sincere apology message, and I'm planning to donate the cost of the entire basket to an animal sanctuary she supports. But the damage is done. I ruined her birthday and made a heartfelt gesture into a thoughtless insult. So, honest mistake here, clearly very remorseful, and honestly, she handled it with such class and such grace. I do think that she'll forgive you just with the little information that we've been provided in the story, but OP, definitely your heart's genuine in this one. Don't beat yourself too much about it. Bob Chris replied, "See, there's the crux of the issue. There's no material that is more eco-conscious than real leather for stuff like gloves, work boots, etc. No man-made materials come close, and none are eco-friendly either. There simply is no replacement. I'm all for people trying to make ethical decisions in their life, but absolutists like vegans force themselves to make choices to use products that are inherently more damaging and less renewable." Our next story is, "Today I freaked up by sending something in our class group chat instead of sending it to my sister. I have no idea how did I open the group chat of our class instead of my sister's chat. I'm not lying. This actually happened and I don't know if I was blinded for that moment or something. I'm colorblind, so it's not uncommon for me to send pictures of anything which I'm confused about to my sister and ask her what color is it, just so I know what I guessed was correct or not. So this one fine day, I was drinking bubble tea. My mom tried it for the first time, and I had no idea what color it is. So I clicked a picture of it and opened WhatsApp, and I really don't know how I opened the group chat instead and sent the picture. And instead of typing, my freaking idiot decided to record an audio. I talked to her in audios too, and I was just being lazy also. And I said, "What color is this?" And I put down my phone and continued with my tea and forgot about it. After maybe an hour, when I picked my phone up again and opened WhatsApp, there were a few messages in the group chat and it showed an @ outside. It means someone replied to me. And I thought I don't usually send messages in group chat. How could someone reply to me? And when I opened the chat, that's when I realized what I've done. People discuss like serious academic problems in the chat, and I sent an audio asking for the color of bubble tea. Sending an audio is all the more awkward. I hope you understand. It's just weird to send audio in group chat. I was just being stupid. I immediately deleted them for everyone, but many had already seen it, and they of course laughed at it, but told me the color. The text, which made it more embarrassing, was this one guy saying that I have a beautiful voice and girls would die after me if I send an audio singing something. Eventually, people forgot all about this, but I still remember very well, of course. Yeah, I doubt that there are very few listeners and readers joining us today that have not, at least once in their lives, inadvertently sent the wrong text to the wrong person or wrong group chat. We've all been there. It's gonna be okay, OP. Nami replied, "You really freaked up. Did anyone call you because you got a beautiful voice?" And OP replied to this, "Nah, they probably forgot about my beautiful voice the next day. By the way, almost 1.5 years ago, I did sing in class, and people praised me. Not because of my voice, but because of the lyrics. It's a song called Breathless, and it's said to be sung without taking a breath. Which is, of course, not possible. So you have to sing in such a way and take breaths in between that are not noticeable, and I practiced for this for like a week. The teacher said to me, 'If only you could memorize zoology the way you memorize the lyrics.'" Our next story is, "Today I freaked up by taking a group of 20-somethings to a waterfall. This happened many years ago. I agreed to take a group of 20-ish-year-olds, friends of friends, not people I really knew well, on a hike to this gorgeous waterfall in a state park. The trail's about 3 miles each way. Not difficult if you're careful, but have some common sense. Unfortunately, these kids decided to haul a bottle of vodka with them. By the time we reached the falls, they were tipsy, giggling, and making increasingly bad decisions. The whole way in, I kept warning them, don't mess around near the edge, don't climb, stay safe. At the falls, I repeated myself over and over. I thought I was being overly cautious. One girl decided she was going to climb down the face of a 30-foot waterfall into the pool below. I told her absolutely not. I pleaded, warned, even tried to physically block her. She laughed it off, said she'd be fine, and started down anyway. Halfway down, she slipped. I will never forget the sound. She smacked against the rocks and cracked her skull open. Blood everywhere. She wasn't unconscious, but she was in terrible shape. We had no cell service, no way to call for help. The only option was to carry her out. So we took turns literally hauling her on our shoulders up that brutal 3-mile trail, one stumble away from making her injury worse. Finally, at the trailhead, we got service and called 911. She ended up being airlifted out for an emergency surgery. The good news, she did survive. She still has a massive scar as a permanent reminder. The bad news, I'll never forget the helplessness of that hike out, knowing every step mattered. Lesson learned, I've never taken anyone back to that waterfall unless I 100% trust them to respect the danger. That day could have ended so much worse, and honestly, I still feel lucky it didn't. Well, yeah, the big picture here is that obviously she's okay. And the scar, hopefully, she can use her mistakes in conjunction with the story that OP's sharing here to, continue to reinforce the hazards of being reckless in a situation like that. And hopefully people will take heed and we'll have less accidents like this. Alexis JM replied, to anyone else in this position, the correct answer is to pour out the vodka, turn around, or both. It's hard to be accused of spoiling someone else's fun, but this story could have ended so much worse. Our next story is, today I freaked up by ignoring my grandma's little note and missing my last chance to see her. So this actually happened a few weeks ago, and I can't stop beating myself up about it. My grandma raised me for part of my childhood while my parents worked crazy hours. She wasn't the bake cookies and tell stories type, more like don't waste food and drink ginger water if your stomach hurts. Tough love, quiet, steady. Last Tuesday, I stopped by her place to drop off some meds. She was in her usual faded blue house coat and looked smaller than I remembered. She smiled and said, "You don't stay long these days." I laughed it off and promised I'd come back Sunday with groceries. Then she mentioned she left something for me in the drawer. I didn't check it. Friday night, she passed away in her sleep. When I finally opened the drawer, there was an old photo of us and a tiny note. "You'll be okay. I love you always." I sat there crying, realizing I'd brushed off her message, thinking I'd have more time. I freaked up by not paying attention, not showing up when I could, and now there's no way to fix it. I'm learning the hard way that sometimes the little things matter the most. Yeah, it's cliche, but don't take a moment for granted with your loved ones because that can be taken away in an instant, and survivor's guilt and remorse just never fully heals. Hate to hear that. Daughter of Jan replied, "Your story brought tears to my eyes. Try not to beat yourself up about this. She clearly loved you and she was your age once. She knew that young people have busy lives and live them like they and everyone around them have eternal life and unlimited time. You visited her shortly before she died. You showed her that you love her. She gave you a memory with a heartfelt message. You'll be fine. Maybe not tomorrow, maybe not next week, but she seemed pretty sure, so she must have known you're a good person. I'm sorry for your loss, OP." And OP replied to this, "Thank you, your words mean a lot. I'm still hurting, but reading this helps me remember the love we shared and the moments that really mattered. I appreciate your kindness." Our next story is, today I freaked up by copying from my mind. No joke, I cannot believe this is actually happening, but also I'm freaking out and need help. I, female, 21 years old, am a botany student. We had a really important anatomy exam today. The exam topper would get to do an internship under a professor that also happens to be a really popular and important botanist. The exam would account for 25% of our grades this semester. Everyone wanted to do well. For anyone that doesn't know, anatomy has a ton of diagrams, and botany diagrams are extremely difficult. I've always been really good at visualizing things. If I see something a few times, and I practice drawing it once or twice, it's really easy for me to visualize it whenever I want to. I always considered it a gift. Now I'm not so sure. If anyone has watched Queen's Gambit, it's something like that. Like how Beth can visualize the game on ceilings. I can visualize images as though I'm watching something through a projector. Well, that really did not work out for me today. I had worked really hard for the theory portions and practiced the diagrams a few times. There were some diagrams I had to draw on the spot as well, 3 to be precise. I knew all of them, I had practiced them, so I did what I always did, visualized them and started drawing. 5 minutes later, the invigilator tapped me on my shoulders. Apparently, I'd looked like I was zoning out. I apologized and tried to continue writing my exam. She asked me if everything was okay. I said it's fine and I was just trying to picture the diagrams. She was confused and asked me for details. I politely told her that I was still writing my paper and could answer her questions later. A different invigilator walked up to ask what happened. The first one told the second what happened. They talked in hush-hush voice for a while and then came up to me again. This time, they asked me to put down my pencil and come out with them. I'm confused. Outside, they told me that I had committed academic dishonesty. I honestly thought this is a weird prank. They tell me that I did not actually know the material and was just copying off my mind, and this would count as cheating, and hence they couldn't allow me to continue. I'm baffled by what's going on, but I try to explain that I cannot miss the exam. They tell me I shouldn't have thought about that before cheating. But what do you mean cheating? Somehow, I'm no longer allowed to enter the exam. They went in and told the other students and remaining invigilators that they take their job very seriously and would kick out anyone caught cheating. So now my classmates think I'm a cheat. I couldn't finish a really important exam, and I'm still extremely confused. I've emailed my professor explaining the situation, so that even though I did not get the internship, I would at least have a chance to explain myself for my 25% grades. I've also emailed my HOD because he's generally a really chill and helpful teacher, so hopefully things work out. Guys, I have to admit, I've got nothing on this, and this is a first. I've never heard anything like this. Let's jump into the comments. I337 Quaker replied, "Nah, take this to whatever academic review process your school has and appeal it, all the way to the dean. You had no physical documents or aids and were using your memory, as required." Our next story is, "Today, I freaked up by unknowingly bringing the worst date to a work party possible. Forgot the obligatory, this happened a long time ago." Another thread reminded me of this. There's no way I could have seen this coming, but man, did I freak up. I moved to the city I currently live in when I was 19. I was pregnant, and the dad was a horrible person who I wanted nowhere near my baby. So while my folks helped me, I was alone when it came to a partner. I'd gotten a job as a receptionist in a company owned by a boss that was so bad that he deserves his own thread somewhere. The only thing he was truly giving at was parties, which we had a lot, and a lot of them turned into drunk orgies. No joke. So, for a Christmas party, he threw a party at a local, really good restaurant that had a private room for rent. As I said, I was very young and pregnant, and trust me, almost nobody wanted to be friends with someone like me in my city. I got really lucky, and someone hooked me up with another teen mom, and we became friends. This mom was now 21. We'll call her A. I had nobody to take to the party with me, so I asked if A could come even though I hadn't known her that long, and my boss said yes. We got there, and she suddenly saw someone she knew and ran off to say hi. That turned into her totally ditching me, and an hour later, she told me she was going to a bar with this girl she knew. I was ticked, partly because she was my ride. When I got to work the next Monday, my boss wouldn't even look at me. He was furious. When he finally called me into his office, he demanded to know why I would bring someone like A. Turns out the girl she ran off with was his daughter, and that A at one point had seen her AA sponsor, yes, at 21, but had given up and pushed his daughter to relapse so many times that he'd forbidden her to see A at all. His daughter had left with A at the party and gotten so crap-faced that she didn't come home that night. I was shocked. I had no idea A was like that. I don't think that her boss ever really forgave me, though. Well, OP, if you didn't know a whole lot about her before, you certainly know more than enough information about her now. Lesson learned, I suppose. Timmy from ABQ replied, "Work parties with alcohol are the biggest threat to careers in the world." Our next story is, "Today I freaked up by answering an emergency call." Today, this is a yesterday I freaked up. I was too drugged up and in pain to file this post. The story begins with me at my side job at the library. I work it on weekends, but my main job is at a rural clinic/pharmacy, which is also attached to the ER. So, in very unique circumstances, I can be called back to work for emergent reasons. This happens time to time for me, so when I go as fast as safely possible, until today. I got a call from my home where my boss, who owns the business, mind you, dropped in expecting to find me there. He wanted to pick me up and go to the clinic. I asked how emergent it was, if they should send him to me at my job, or is this something where I'm needed and need to go there straight away. My father-in-law chimed in over my wife, saying that I need to go now, stressing the word now. Well, it's go time. I bail out of the library, which has no other workers now because I work solo on Saturday. I grab my keys and race to the exit, but realize I forgot my earbuds. I race back to get them, and for reasons unknown to me, I drop my car keys in the process. I race to my truck, only to realize I'm no longer have my car keys. So I race back, grab them, and race harder because in my mind I'm running late. For all I know, someone is dying at the ER, and they need extra supplies from our pharmacy. ER has its own supply, but it's limited compared to our stock. In racing back to my car, I can feel myself get winded because I have no stamina. I'm a lazy plug, after all. This is where my body betrays me and my foot fails to land properly. My next step, it was planted all wrong, and I do a lunge forward. My next attempt at a step absolutely fails, and because of my speed forward, both my legs depart from the ground and fly behind me. In this moment, I'm now flying like Superman in the air, except I'm not Superman and gravity is still in effect. Splut. Now, since adrenaline is flowing through me, I get right back up and race to the car, at which point I notice I'm bleeding from my face. I don't care, I'm in a hurry. Someone may be dying for all I know. So here I am, my head throbbing, bleeding, my arm hurting, and I'm driving to the clinic. How did I get there safely? No traffic. It's a rural community in a quiet hour with wide gravel roads and low speed limits. I did not exceed limits, by the way. So now I'm at the clinic, and my boss, owner, sees my face and shirt covered in blood and asks me what exactly happened. I told him I tripped, but I'm fine. I told him I got the keys and asked him what was the emergency. This is where I ultimately freaked up. You see, it wasn't an emergency. He simply locked his keys in the clinic. He said that it was no rush, but my father-in-law took it as it was emergent somehow. I should have asked more questions rather than simply hang up. So now the emergency became me. My boss, who's a doctor, patched me up, but since he was going out of town, he suggested I go to the hospital. I told him I was fine and I went back to work. Thing is, shock is a heck of a thing. When it's working, you don't realize what trouble you're in. When it shuts down, oh boy. By the time I get back to the library, it's worn off, and boy howdy, did the pain kick in. At this stage, I was unaware of what I looked like, so when I came in, everyone in the building looked horrified. I told them I had to close early due to an injury, and I had to go home. No one argued. They just simply left. I locked up and went to the ER. When I got there, I was taken in relatively quickly because I was staff and had preferential treatment. I did have to wait for a true emergency to clear out. In that time, my body sent me all the messages on what is freaked up. Essentially, my entire right side bit it, and bit it hard. So hard, my Google Pixel Watch was finally noticed to be caved in and obliterated. Both my wrists hurt, and my right arm is now frozen. Eventually, Doc comes in, examines me, does an x-ray, and I've got a broken bone in my elbow, which makes sense because it's absolutely frozen in pain and actively in spasms. The pain is so severe, the doc doesn't hesitate to allow me to have a dose of hydromorph, and to my surprise, it did nothing. He put me in a soft cast, and after making sure I had no concussion, sent me home. Last night was the worst sleep I had in my life. It was impossible to get comfortable. Any movement of my right arm made me want to cry, and of course, all my pets had to investigate my arm, move it, lie down on it, and otherwise generally harass my arm and make me want to puke in pain. This morning I'm doing better. After a very high dose of gabapentin, things have finally settled down enough for me to write this. Man, that sounds like a hell of a fall. Glad you're somewhat okay, OP, but yeah, anyone that's played sports or done anything physical will tell you, like, adrenaline has a really wild habit of, like, masking those injuries, and then as soon as it wears off, you're like, dang, my body hurts. Oorah replied, the first thing I learned as a volunteer firefighter, never hurry. Things go wrong that way. I hope you feel better soon. And OP replied to this, I'm off for at least a week. The only saving grace is that I'll be getting WCB, so I'll be paid for time off and treatment. Thank you for the well wishes. Okay, everybody, that's all the time we got for today. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like and comment down below. And if you want to check out any of our other videos, click the video on the right. I got nothing else for you. I will see you all next time.